Put on then as God's elect, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord hath forgiven you. For you must also forgive. And above all these things put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Doesn't that sound like a recipe, ladies? Welcome to Home Living, and I hope you will go over to my blog to listen to this, because the name of that is Home Living, and I'm making these videos for my blog, and so there aren't any comments here, but you may comment when you get over there. Also, I would like to share with you my teacup today, and it is just so pretty. I will put a picture on there for you. Isn't that lovely? It's just like a piece of calico fabric with little print. It's hard to find this kind of thing with a white off-white background and little tiny print. Those are hard to find, and I got this at Home Goods the other day, and I believe the price was $5.99, and it's part of the Grace Teaware. And I really do like these new ones that are being produced because they have the beauty of the antique teacup with a fairly good size handle, and the whole thing is a lot stronger, and they're dishwasher safe. So ladies, I created this for people to listen to while they work. I always have some little thing to show you. So today I'm going to show you my hat, my Dollar Tree hat, and it has 3 ingredients on it. It's a hat from the Dollar Tree, and it's this little piece of netting with ribbon around it, which I just laid on there, and I'll show you pictures of what it is. See if you can guess what this is from the Dollar Tree. And then there was a stem of flowers that had 6 roses on them, and I just stuck them in. So there's no gluing, there's nothing, and I just wanted to show you this hat and put it on for you and show you how I wear it. Okay, so if I'm in the house and I come to you and we're having tea together, I will lift the veil up. When I go out, I might pull it down. Do you think you could identify me? I don't know. But I have used this sometimes when I'm not sure if anyone's going to give me trouble in a store letting me in, and they'll offer me a mask and I'll say no thank you. And I think it's really important to do it gently and not cause a big fuss. They're not going to read the cards I give them. They're not going to listen to what I say about the law and discrimination and the Geneva Convention, because you're not supposed to torture prisoners or deny them food, and we're all prisoners. And I'm trying to start this video without mentioning the war, but unfortunately I had to, because we're all being dragged into the war, and we don't want to be in the war. We don't want to be part of it. So anyway, I'm going to put this on my blog so you can guess what all that is, and it was no work at all, just $3. Now today I'm going to talk about the appearance first, and it could get a little boring, but I know there are probably a couple of men listening to me, and I wanted to tell you something that was such a big impact on me when I was in my late 20s. There was a book published called Dress for Success by J.T. Molloy, and it was for men. And it was targeted, I think, quite a bit, had quite a bit of information for men that were working at home. And I don't know why, except maybe there was more free enterprise going on, or people were being more self-employed for some reason, or they were making products that they were having to market to businesses, and or they had programs, and they had types of businesses where they would have to go and present themselves to people in big businesses. And so these books were coming out on how to handle yourself in as a self-employed person. And one of the things it said to these men was that even if you're at home, it helps your state of mind for working orderly if you will take a shower, shave, get dressed up, and put a button-down shirt on. And he would excuse you if you didn't wear a tie if you lived out in the West, because out West they're more casual, but in the East he said you'd have to wear a tie because you have to feel like the people that are not self-employed, that are dressing up. You have to get a feeling for that. And so that impressed me so much, that and my Mr. S, he always, because he was a preacher, he was more located at home or nearby in the church office, but he always got dressed up for the day, and he never wore t-shirts, sweatpants, jeans, or anything like that, and he's been used to doing that all of his life. So he wears a button-down shirt. He doesn't wear a tie anymore, but he wears a button-down shirt. It's always pressed. His pants are always pressed, and he gets things done. He gets a lot done. And so I wanted to remind you about that book by J.T. Malloy. Now, it would be outdated because it would tell what kind of tie or suit to wear, but probably not even be available today. There's just different things that are acceptable today. And so, ladies, I would like to start out with that because dressing up puts you in a frame of mind to work, and it also gives your job some dignity and some value and validity in a way, because if you're just sitting around and you're in your slippers and your pajamas, you're giving your mind the message that we are just going to laze around today. And even if you don't have a lot of hard work to do or can't do a lot of hard work, I think it's really important to dress up if that's all you get done. You know, some days I'm not really feeling up to par, and I'm slow. I'm slow at everything, and I will at least get dressed, and I'll feel like I accomplished something because at least I got dressed. And I wanted to share with you something that I listen to while I dress and while I fix my hair. And I wanted to tell you too that I'm wearing a kind of a little, I guess you would call these a choker, and it's just plastic, but someone gave it to me and there's nowhere to wear it, so I'm wearing it for you today. And the Queen is not coming, so I thought, just wear it. Why not? You know, why donate it to Goodwill? They just sell it to someone, so I'll just wear it around the house and feel like I'm the Queen. You know, we are the daughters. I consider myself a lady, and I'm the daughter of a king, and that's Christ, right? And so if you were a king's daughter, what would you wear? And you think about that, and that's why we have these, in the olden days, we had these little princess classes for young ladies and girls, and they were so much fun, and they made you feel like it was so special. And the idea was to teach you to be a little more refined and to dress in a little more refined time era. And so today we need to restore that back with our appearance as part of an influence. So I wanted to show you what I wanted you to listen to and see what it is I listen to when I am in the bathroom, because I have to take such a long time and I'm so slow. I want you to see or hear what I listen to. It's a stream, it's a brook, it's a river, and it lasts about an hour, and yes, it is rather extravagant to listen to that on my phone, but that is so calming. And also listen to some of the ocean, or I'll listen to some of a rainforest while I'm getting dressed, and I'm kicking the media out of my day and out of my life. And the media is like being on a diet and not being able to eat something that is absolutely poisonous for your body. As a matter of fact, when you are on a new eating plan and you're trying to slim down, a lot of the programs will tell you that, especially if you have health problems, they will tell you there are certain ingredients you've got to consider to be poison. You've got to convince your mind that they're poison, or you won't lose weight. And it's the same with the media. It's poison. You have to think of it as poison. They never stop, and they will. I told you in the very beginning, back in November, I think, in one of my videos, that when the big scare is over, they'll invent another scare, and to keep you in constant state of fearfulness and dependency on their news, and they never ever settle down. So I created these videos so that you could work. So if you've got something to do, if you have dishes to do, if you have a kitchen to clean, and I've noticed a couple of videos that I've enjoyed so much but had to stop and watch them. And so this is one that you could listen to as you go, and I might even have a little information for your husband if he's listening. I'm a bit daunted by the fact that some of the men are listening to me, but I do have some things in there that they need to know. A lot of times the women were the ones that started homeschooling because the men were at work. And while they were at work, the women started to notice some things that were going on in the public school, things that the children were reporting or bringing home, looking more carefully at the materials and the textbooks, and noticed a trend in taking them away from the love of their families, the love of their country, and the love of God. And so and these were public schools, and they felt that we always felt like we owned the public school, but then we found out we didn't. And so it's nice if the men know what's going on too, because they might not understand a lot of the stands that we take in the home and why we're so careful to protect our children and to prevent a pure atmosphere for them if we possibly can. So homemakers, unfortunately, can be very isolated, because the work that we do is just not as achievable when there's a group around, when there's a lot of chatter, and it's very personal. You know, someone might say, "Oh, I'll come over and help you," but really, can they help you sort out your utensil drawer? No, you're the only one that knows whether you want to keep something or not, whether something is useful to you, or how do you use it? You know, is it the one you grab first or the grab last? And often when people try to help me, I can't find the things that they put away because they can't read my mind. And so it is an isolating thing, you know, cleaning up something. And I always remember a film I saw many years ago. I think it was an old black and white film of a man that went to a really cold area in Alaska, and I guess he was sponsored by a magazine, and he filmed all of his work, and he had to keep a log of what he did all day, kind of like a ship's captain. And in that isolation, he would say, well, today I built this or built that, and today I shoveled snow, and today there was a leak in the roof and I repaired it, and all these little things he would report. And I remember the isolation, but each day was planned out so that he knew what he was doing. And we need to have some kind of a plan. Otherwise, you're sitting there facing a day in total isolation, maybe if you're alone, or if there are just you and your children and your husband is away. There has to be a plan for the day. And then you know how God's going to work with you. And as you pray to achieve all these things. And I would say in the very beginning of the day, don't pray at last, pray at first, and pray that God will help you achieve something that you know that is necessary in the home, and to also give it spiritual values, because we know that the spiritual is more important than the material, but He's given us the material to work with so that we can serve our family and serve others. And so we need to have a plan, even if it doesn't get done. And as I said, there are days when all I seem to accomplish is getting dressed and checking the mail and doing a few other things, but never on my master list. Can't seem to get it done. However, I have faith that there will be better times and that I can do it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about when you decide that your homemaking can be done by listening to things that are positive and good. And you can listen to scripture being read, and you can listen to, it's fun also to get a little video or recording from your children or grandchildren and listen to that. And if you decide that you want to not be so trusting in the news media, and as I told you, the news media is not from God. It's not mentioned in the Bible that you have to listen to them, but they have set themselves up as an authority in our lives, and people are very addicted to it, and they'll listen to it 3 times a day. But it actually can defeat your home, because you have to have a happy, cheerful attitude. You have to have children in a childhood that is free and happy, carefree childhood, free from worry and heavy responsibility. So you can't have the news going through your head. And they're so upsetting. I mean, every day is something new, isn't it? They just clamp down on us more and more. And if you didn't listen to it, would you know some of these things that were going on? And, well, you would know some of it by the way people are acting, but they're acting that way because they're listening to the news. But what if you didn't listen to it? You could say, oh, really? Well, I didn't hear anything about it. You know, no one told me. And so to get rid of that influence in your life, you're going to lose some friends. You know, I've noticed this. People that I knew for 20 years, or you could also lose some relatives that don't want to speak to you anymore because you're not buying the narrative, you're not repeating the narrative, and you're not following it, and you're not obeying it, and you're going to be even more isolated. So think about that. And think about that man who went to the coldest part of Alaska and built a little cabin while it was, he filmed himself in an old-fashioned camera on a tripod, and it was put on Netflix, I think, years ago. And think about that. Think about what he did without any people around. And think about what you can do, because we are so blessed and we have so many more conveniences. Now, the isolation can be a useful tool. Use that isolation to accomplish something, so that when you are not isolated and you can't get anything done, and there are people around, and there are social events, and there are other things to do and places to go, that you don't have to play catch up or rush through a job. There is something calming about being able to work at your own pace and think about what you're doing instead of hurrying up and cleaning out a drawer and then shoving everything back in. It should be restoring and relaxing to do it. Have you thought about that? That even when you sweep a floor, it should be restoring and relaxing. Even when how many times have you been outside to hang up the clothes on the line? Instead of really breathing and enjoying that experience, looking up in the blue sky, you're in a hurry. You want to hang it all up, and then the tension starts to build up. And for all of you who are not wearing masks, and I am one of them, let's make sure that we're not being hypocrites, because I don't wear a mask because I can't breathe. I want to breathe. And I believe we're breathing in oxygen that God created, and we're breathing out carbon dioxide, which is a waste product that we're not supposed to breathe back in. And so masks are not good for you. They also have chemicals in them. Even the cloth that they're made out of cloth have chemicals in them. And so let's not be hypocrites, though. How much real breathing do you do even without a mask? When a baby is asleep, watch his tummy. It's his tummy that goes up and down, isn't it? He's not breathing shallow little breaths up in here, which will totally make you tense and ruin your health. But when I went to a physical therapist years ago for an injury, I learned to breathe. And the breathing is so healthful. It's if you don't breathe properly, you could even have a heart attack. And so learn to breathe. There are places you can go on the web, and there's information you can get. There might even be some instruction videos on YouTube on breathing. And so learn to breathe, because if you're not breathing and you're just holding your breath, or you have shallow breath and you're tense and you're not really breathing. And I know in the therapy class they taught us, to the count of a certain number, to breathe in through your nose and then breathe out through your mouth. And they had a little meter that you could wear around your wrist that showed when you were the most tense, when you weren't really breathing. And I thought it was very interesting, because when you were breathing properly, the tension would go away. So make sure we breathe. And that is health is so important. And that's why you can't have the news media, because they will ruin your health. They'll ruin it with worry. They'll ruin it with fear. They'll ruin it with anxiety. They won't help you get your dishes done. They won't clean your house for you. They absolutely will do no good to you in your whole life. And yet they want to dominate you with their wars and make you participate in them, whether you like it or not. And that's why I can't have a completely blissful video post, because I will have to mention the war. It affects all of us in some way. And so today, though, I hope I have some remedies for you. They won't let us not think about them. Now, if you remember, when you were trying to do your housework and you weren't really seeing what you were doing, you weren't really enjoying your house, you weren't really enjoying the things that you used to enjoy. You can't even concentrate on writing a card or a letter, or you cannot really enjoy your flower bed or your yard work, and you're not really thinking about accomplishing something or your future. Like, for instance, I'll just give you a couple of things I would like to do. I would like to repaint the inside. I'd like to take down old wallpaper. I'd like to sew up all my fabric, and I'd like to catch up on all my correspondence, and I'd like to go through old books and get those cleaned up. These are just some of my ambitions. And when the news media starts to bother me and I'm paying attention to it, those things don't get done. It's like being narcissized. If you ever study narcissism, a narcissist is somebody who, by very stealthily, can make you quit doing anything, can make you quit living, can even make you quit breathing. And they'll say something that goes into you so deep that you lose your self-confidence and you can't do anything. And that's the way the news media is. It's a narcissist. As soon as you get comfortable with one thing, they'll bring up something else and keep you in a constant state of anxiety. And so that is one reason we don't have a television in our home. And that way we can choose what we want, and we can even sit around and talk and have a discussion. And that's one reason so many ladies now are making their own newsletters. And I have received a couple of more. I didn't bring them to the table here, but one lady, all she did was send a piece of paper, and she has a printing machine, so she printed off several and sent them to her friends. And she says, I write this because it calms me. And all she did was put a little story of something she used to do when she was younger, and a recipe, and sent it off. And that's all she did. And I think that's just the best therapy in the world. And I'm really, really enjoying. Some people put a lot of effort into their newsletter, and I'm really enjoying them. And so they won't let us stop thinking about them and their war. And you know, Proverbs 4:16 says, for they sleep not until they have done their evil deeds. Their sleep is taken away unless they cause someone to stumble. Proverbs 4:16. These are just people that never sleep. They stay up all night. We used to joke about them, didn't we? In the olden days, they'd say, do you just stay up all night trying to figure out how to cause trouble? That was our interpretation of Proverbs 4:16. For evil people cannot sleep until they have done their evil deeds. Their sleep is taken away unless they cause someone to stumble. And this is what the news media does. They're always busy, aren't they? I mean, they just broadcast all the time. And they have hired people to keep it going, keep the narrative going, so they can change the world. But you know who's really going to change the world? It's people at home. It's ladies at home. And I'll tell you one reason I know this is, and one of the reasons that I don't have the level of fear that is caused by all this is because I went through the war when I wanted to homeschool, and I suffered all the threats and all the fear and everything, and I decided that it was mainly a mind control thing. If they could get me to fear, they could get me to quit. But when I started investigating what was really going on, no one was coming after me. No one was tying up my hands and sticking me in a car and taking me to the sheriff. And no one was doing anything to me, but they were, society in general was giving me a pretty hard time. And I noticed one thing that always stayed the same, and no matter how many people were not speaking to me since I decided, in a small town, since I decided to homeschool and I left their system, they always took my money quite cheerfully at the grocery store. And I thought, aha, you know, things really aren't that bad. Now, of course, what they're doing is if you don't have a mask, they're not even going to let you buy something. And that's not right. We know that's not right. And I thought Peggy Hill's, one of her videos about going to Walmart, her husband went in there and he wanted a garden hose, and they weren't going to sell it to him unless he had a mask on. So he asked them to call the sheriff, and he said, no, never, I'll call the sheriff. So he called the sheriff and told what the problem was, and they said, we're not coming anymore. We're not sending anybody out anymore over the mask issue. Something. So, but the health, to keep your health, we can't always be thinking about this, and they will make you think about their war constantly. And I wanted to read you something about adrenaline fatigue. Now, I'm not sure what it is, but I have always been told that adrenaline is something that is there in your body that will produce when there's an emergency. When you hear about these people who see an accident and run out and pull out somebody out from under a vehicle or something, and they have strength that they didn't know where it came from, and your adrenaline kicks up when you are alerted about something. And so I wanted to read you a little bit about it. It's hard to read. Somebody sent this to me in a page in a book about adrenaline. I don't know what the name of it is. But this would be excellent for I think, for your refinement class, actually, because health is so important. And we're in the middle of a huge heat wave here, and we don't really need to be wearing something on our faces. As a matter of fact, even this hat, I can't even wear the veiling over my face because it's made out of some kind of fabric that I'm sure blocks the air, and I don't feel good after I've worn it. So we need to know about how to keep our health. And part of keeping your health is, what do you listen to, what do you read, and what do you hear, what do you see, and what do you think about all day. This is part of your health, and you can test your health out by how your body feels. Do you have tension in your upper back? Do you have tension around here? Is your arm going numb? Are you feeling very weird? Is your digestion good? Is your elimination good? Is your thinking muddy? That is when you know you've just been too indoctrinated by all this, and they will keep it going day and night. So today I want to read to you a little bit, because I'm going to do a little bit about the health issue. And one of the things that I think really keeps us healthy is to go through things in the house, tidy up things, just have a little routine no matter what happens. Someone will say the world is coming to an end. You should have a routine. You should say, well, I better get those dishes done. Well, I better sweep the floor. Have a routine no matter what. Like, for instance, one thing that I decided to do was at least every day floss my teeth and listen to the Bible being read, listen to some singing, sweep the floor. It's amazing about sweeping, because whether or not the floor really needs it, that sweeping movement somehow lightens up my mind. Or clean out one drawer a day, the kitchen drawer, or some little drawer that has all those pencils and pens in it. To have a routine that you do every single day. And it might seem silly to write it all down, like at 11 o'clock I'm going down to the end of the road and I'm going to check the mail. And that might seem silly, but if I don't do that, then I'm running here and there in a panic. So have things that you do every day no matter what. So, and I've seen enough of the old pioneer films that used to be old westerns in black and white, and there would always be some wise pioneer woman who heard that there would be a bunch of renegades coming through, and they were going to burn her farm down or something, and she'd say, well, I guess I better get the bread cooked, or something like that. She'd be very practical about it. So that's how we handle fear too. So I'm going to read this to you, if I can get it, and it's do these things, and it's called adrenal fatigue control. These are general rules for adrenal fatigue. Here are some general rules to follow. Do these things. Go to bed before 10 p.m. Sleep in until 9 a.m. whenever possible. We don't want to do that, do we? We think it's wasting time and that it is lazy. But if you have to stop in the middle of the day and recline in your chair or lay down, you will find your energy and your health coming back. You feel it as you rest. At first you think, oh, I'm never going to get up. Then you gradually feel it coming back. Look for things that make you laugh. That is so important. We're always afraid to laugh, especially in a crisis. We think, oh, that's not very nice. But it's really nice to have young people around. They're so clever. They think of the most interesting things. And so I will call somebody up that's really young and ask them do they know anything funny for the day? And sometimes you can find a joke that's hilarious, or things that make you laugh. Eliminate the energy robbers. These are things in your life that drain you, that drain your energy. Now, I don't know what that be. Everybody needs to observe that. Now, for me, I'll just tell you personally, for me, an energy robber is being around someone who's constantly arguing, contradicting, or is a negative thinker. And a negative thinker is someone who will say something like, well, good luck with that, you know, or we'll just have to wait and see, but I doubt it, you know, that kind of thing. That dissolves me. I don't like it because I can't fight it, you know. And usually the trouble is with energy stealers, people whose words steal your energy, is that you can't prove that they are wrong because they're living in a dark world of negativism. And I hate to use that word, but I don't know what else it is. And even in the Bible, God was not pleased with people that came back with a negative report. He was not pleased. And we see that all through the Bible. And he wants us to do his will and not say, well, it's impossible. And one of the things that he tells us to do is to live our lives to glorify him and to do the work that he has given to us. Do something that gives you pleasure every day. Now, for some people, like me, we have to wait until the house is in relatively good order before we can get out the things that make us happy. Like for me, it's reading. It's looking through some of these wonderful cottage books that I have, and it is sewing. But I cannot do any of that when chaos is all around me, so I won't be able to get those out. To other people, it's their card making, it's their art, and so do something pleasurable every day. Whenever you are not enjoying your life, go back to the things we can do section and take action. Now, I wasn't sent that page, so I don't know what the things we can do section is. Notice at least one small everyday thing that you are grateful for each day. You know, I go outside in the morning, walk around a little bit with my first cup of tea, and I'll notice one of those cottontail rabbits bouncing away. And we haven't seen rabbits here on this land in, I don't think, ever. And we don't know anybody that remembers seeing rabbits around here, but we have rabbits now, and they bounce away and they stand there and look at you for a while, and then they bounce away with their cottontails up in the air. And my garden is a very raised bed, and so they don't get to get up in there. But and there's like one of them. I see one, sometimes two of them. And the other thing that I like to go out to do is see the swallows. It's very interesting. You know those old postcards that showed, drawings of the paintings of the swallows, and they're going together, and they kind of swoop down this way and up this way. And I got to see them come down real close to the ground and then fly back up into the air, just like they were playing with the wind. I got to see that the other day. I thought that was such a beautiful thing to be grateful for. And then I noticed on the ground real small little flowers, kind of like violets, that I guess come up from just their wildness. And hadn't even noticed them before because, I'm walking on it and I'm looking ahead. And so these small things, whether it's a cloud, whether it's a scenery, whether it's a little corner of your house, I think it's really important to be grateful for that. Take your dietary supplements regularly. Well, I take a powdered drink. It's a powdered vitamin drink that has a lot of minerals in them, and I don't take the full amount. I just take a little bit throughout the day in a little glass of water, and I don't take the full amount right away. And so that I can just kind of space out my my level feeling and my energy and my strength throughout the day, so I don't take the whole thing. Move your body and breathe deeply. I will tell you about that. I joined an online exercise class, and it's just old-fashioned exercises that were taken in the 1950s for ladies that were very easy and not too stressful. And And the breathing was there too. Believe in your ability to recover. Use your mind as a powerful healing tool. You know, the mind also has to be used as, because the Bible talks about the mind quite a bit. It says, have the mind of Christ Jesus. And Christ Jesus has the mind of victory. And the mind, there is a battle for the mind. When I talk about the people that are against us, that want to defeat us, even though we don't even want to be in a war, and discourage us, it's a mind thing. And if you let the news media take over your mind, you can never recover. And so that's why it's so important to keep your mind on things that are good and lovely. And that's from Philippians 4:8. Don't forget Galatians 5:22. Use your mind as a powerful healing tool. Isn't that a wonderful idea? And the Lord knows we have to have stable minds. And you cannot let the world steal that from you. Keep a journal and jot down your experiences each day. That would be interesting, but I can't start those things. They're so thick, and I just, leave them off. But I think that it would be a good thing to make a small booklet, like I told you, and just staple it together and just write a few things in it. Keep a journal and jot down your experiences each day. Now, what I did after I joined a lot of classes was I wrote down at the end of each day how I felt. Eat the food your body needs. Learn which foods make you feel bad. Keep a list of them. Keep a list of foods that make you feel bad. Reread this book as often as you need. Well, I don't know what book it is, but somebody sent me this page. Try having a glass of water in the morning containing 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of salt stirred in until dissolved. Now, the salt, you can't trust salt in foods, commercial foods, because you don't know what kind it is. But I buy Himalayan pink salt, and there's another brand called real salt, and it looks like sand. It has all the minerals in it, and that is so important. One of the reasons I think people get hypertension is they're using the wrong kind of salt. Salt your food and salt your water. Interesting, huh? If you are to have fruit, this is for adrenaline fatigue recovery. If you are to have fruit, have something with salt before or after the fruit, and chew very well. Combine starchy carbohydrates, protein, and fats at every meal. Eat an abundance of foods, fresh foods, whole foods, those foods which are eaten like nature grows them. Eat lots of colored vegetables. Chew your food well. You know, I was talking to you about the videos that I have been watching that a French woman put on recently that came up on my feed, and she said that her upbringing and growing up was they never ate on foot. They never ate anywhere at the table, and the table was well set, and it was also a time of relaxation and social time. They weren't eating just to get it over with and get on with something else. It was a deliberate time, and I think that's very important too. And even if you're alone, I would suggest you get dressed up and you set the table and you prepare a meal and make it kind of a ritual for yourself. Take the power and responsibility of your health and into your own hands. That's really important. You take care of your health and let other people take care of their health. Make whatever changes you need to make to regain your health. You know, whether it's resting more often. People do not think rest is profitable, and they're thinking, I could get more done if I don't rest. But you actually could do more without mistakes if you got more rest. And so that means, you know, certain time of the day, I sit down, I have a kind of a reclining chair, and I'll get my fresh cup of tea and that favorite magazine or book that I like, and just look at that, and it just gives me so much peace. And of course, I listen to, at night, if I am having a hard time sleeping, I get a video on my phone of the ocean. And it's, you know, if it runs maybe an hour, I'll play that, and before I don't even know when I've fallen asleep. These are so important, that kind of thing. Or you might not even have to do anything like that. You might have noises around you that calm you. Laugh several times per day. You know, the Bible talks about laughter is good medicine, and you probably want to look up what the advantages of laughing is. And it talks about taking vitamin C complex that has magnesium and pantothenic acid at approximately 2 p.m. every day, along with a small snack in order to help to avoid the 3 to 4 p.m. low. I'd like to have that book. I have no idea what it's called, but someone sent me this page, and I thought it would be really good stuff for the refinement class. Slow you down and make you think about God's blessings. So today I also want to talk about how they won't let us stop thinking about the war. They won't leave us alone. They won't let us be happy. There are many things to report that are really good. There are things that are being built and changes being made to make things more convenient, and there are new inventions, and there are a lot of nice things going on which are never reported. And they won't let us not think about their issues. And if you'll remember, there was a scripture that talked about how we're a different race of people from a different kingdom, and that's we belong to God, and we have a different king, and we have a different passport, and we have different borders, and we have different. You could just kind of compare this. We live in a different type of world, and so we have a different set of rules and a different type of constitution than these people that are trying to alter our lives so much every day and get into our homes. And right now, our homes are the last place of freedom that we can exercise. However, some of these Marxist governors and mayors are insisting that we stand 6 feet apart and wear masks in our home. And which, you know, what are they going to do? If they got enough people to come and check your home, I don't think they are going to do that. But they keep you in fear, and then you will do that. And we have, you know, people living at opposite ends of the house, and they can't talk to each other, so they just phone each other. And but to me, there's a movie that when I was really young, I'll just talk about this first. When I was really young, I read a book called FDR, My Exploited Father-in-Law by Curtis B. Dall, D-A-L-L. And he had married Franklin Delano Roosevelt's daughter and had discovered all these criminals coming in and out of the White House that he had hired to do certain things. And he was a globalist that was turning America into globalism and trying to make them more communist. And he wrote this book, and it was about 99 cents, and I had several copies of it for years and years and kept it around. And then one year I think I went through this stuff that I had, and I had one of those purges, and I got rid of it. And I noticed on the web you can only get these books for about $350. Now, but he told of all the things that Franklin Delano Roosevelt did to get America in a war and to take away a lot of our rights and take a lot of money in taxes and things like that. So there's one thing you have to realize about a lot of people, especially our governors and our mayors, is that it's all about money. It's all about taking the money. They don't really care about you and protecting you because they're going to make money off of whatever it is. Now, if you remember the movie Gone with the Wind, did you know that Rhett Butler played both sides of that war? And that could be why no one wants you to see Gone with the Wind, and you can't find it anymore. I mean, it was in a store one day down here locally, and I thought, I'll go get a copy of that. And it was gone, and no sign of it anywhere. There were several of them in there. And this Rhett Butler, what he did is he sold arms, he sold guns, and he just sold them to both sides, and that's how he made his money. And this is how these politicians too make money, is they'll start a war, and even this type of war, they're going to make money off of it, because eventually you're all going to be very, very sick from the bacteria that you're breathing inside of masks, and it's going to give you, they say now there's an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease from the bacteria that you're breathing in the mask, and they are going to get a government contract to pay millions and trillions of dollars to pharmaceutical companies or other companies to get a remedy for that. And then, of course, they'll skim off the top and take it all in kickbacks. And that's why nothing ever gets done. That's why cancer is never cured. And that's why other things are never cured. Because any time they pass a bill and it involves money, they are taking a lot of it for themselves. And so those are just some things you need to realize, that they are up to no good, and it's always about money. At least it seems that way to me. And they don't really care about you. And so that's why you have to, the Bible talks about having this mind in you that was in Christ Jesus, to have the mind of Christ, and that's the mind of faith. And we're in a different kingdom, and we have a different Lord and Savior. And these people that claim to rule us do not rule our souls. And we can, a Christian benefits the land because of the orderly way in which they live, and the way in which they are good stewards of their property and of themselves. And so this is the way that we fight our war. It's a spiritual war, is through our character and through our manners and through our refinement. Now, as I said before, there is only one thing that can take my mind off of my homemaking, and that is, and I do like to play some of these things, this type of noise, like the ocean or a rainforest or something, while I'm cleaning, and it seems to make me more methodical, and I'm able to get it all done. And I love making a list and thinking, because I'll usually think, oh, this looks terrible, I don't know if I'll ever get it done. And then having a little break and going and looking at my list and think, I can check this off. It feels so good to make that check mark because I did do something. If you don't have a list, you sometimes find it hard to think that you actually got anything accomplished. Well, maybe you did. So make a list. And if you didn't make a list, write down things that you did so that you know that you did accomplish something during the day. But the one thing that can be very discouraging in homemaking, of course, is isolation and lack of approval. And the other thing is arguing, contradicting, and negative thinking. It'll affect your breathing. Isn't that interesting? If someone comes along and they want to argue, and then you decide you're going to defend yourself and argue back, it affects your breathing, and that affects your health. It affects your internal organs. Actually can give you an attack of some kind, a panic attack. And if you talk back to these kind of people, the negative thinker, the arguing person, the contradictor, you're just pouring more fuel on the fire. Because have you ever noticed that a contradicting person, whether it's in the home, whether it's at church, whether it's in your friendship circle or wherever you are, have you ever noticed that they never really have a thought of their own to talk about? They are triggered by what other people say. That's their fuel. They'll wait till someone says something and then they'll tell you the opposite. That's the game they play. And some people really think they're just making conversation. They don't really know that that's wrong, that that's not good, that doesn't build happy, good relationships or a healthy heart. And they just don't know. And so the way I handled it with this contradicting, years ago, there was a lady that was contradicting me, but she waited until other people were around. And I started to, be a little concerned about it, because no matter what I said, she would contradict me, and she'd do it quite loudly. And so one day, someone came up to me and said, "Are you and this other lady having a problem? You're having some kind of problem?" And I said, "Well, not that I know of, no." And they said, "Because we've noticed that she contradicts you a lot and she tries to argue with you." And I said, "Well, I don't know what that's all about." So what I did is I finally had someone that I trusted go to this lady and say, in the church we want to show unity together, and we don't want people to think that we're at odds with our brothers and sisters in Christ. And you may not be intending to make it appear that way, but people have noticed that you are contradicting Mrs. On every little thing, and we don't know if you actually are aware that you're doing that, if it's a habit or what." And she actually did not know she was doing that, and they suggested that she put her focus on Christ and not worry about what I was doing. And what it turns out is, when we investigated a little further, is that this was a habit she grew up with. She argued with she was from a large family, she argued with her brothers and sisters, and people just didn't catch it. She's one of the younger ones. And no one really caught it, because everybody in a family, we're all so busy. We all have our own lives, and we're focused on getting somewhere in life, and sometimes don't notice these things. And then she got married, and she had a couple of children, and she just argued with them all the time, just like they were grown-ups or something, but she just argued everything. If they wanted something, if they wanted to do something, argue back. And then she argued her husband constantly, and we noticed that he avoided her. He tried to be busy. He took on extra jobs because it wasn't pleasant to be constantly contradicted. And so I think as women, we always try to find the reason, behind it. Like, did they have some kind of trauma in their life and stuff, instead of solving it and fixing it. And so you can't always cure them. You can't always cure the other person. But what I have found out is, since they are triggered, since a contradictor, an arguer, and a negative person are triggered by what you say, by what you write in your emails, by what you text, to just limit that. Don't give them the fuel. Don't give them the information, because they use that to think of the opposite. They think they're being critical thinkers. They think they're being very smart, and they're keeping conversation going. But if it irritates you and it debilitates you, then it has to stop. So you just don't answer the comments that they make, and you don't answer. It's like feeding trolls. You just don't feed them. You don't give them any fuel, and you stay away from them. And if you are around them, you can barely say a thing, because they will grasp onto anything. Even if you're nodding your head, they'll want to, do the negative on it. So refinement, we want to study a little bit about refinement today. And what I read to you about restoring adrenaline, or overcoming adrenaline fatigue. Now, I'm not sure you can restore your adrenaline once you've used up a lot of it. But you can develop new thinking habits which will calm your body, and you can also know your limits and say, this is probably a situation or a conversation that I'm probably going to have to avoid, because I've got to preserve my health, or this is a job that I can't do today because I can feel the stress coming on. It's okay to do that. But let's talk about refinement just a little bit before I go today, and that is the hasty, sharp reply. I've mentioned this many times before, but the hasty, sharp reply in your home is deadly, because your children will pick up that hasty, sharp reply, that off-the-cuff reply to them. And when they get older, they will use it, and it will break your heart, because they'll use it on you when you say something, when you need something. So let your talk be gracious, seasoned with salt. Have you ever eaten anything that didn't have any salt on it? It's pretty dry, isn't it? It's hard to swallow. Think about the work that salt does. It makes things so tasty and easy to digest and easy to eat. And the Bible talks about words being eaten, and in the Old Testament there was a story of eating something, and the Revelation talks about eating things. And wasn't there a poem about I'm very careful to keep my words soft and sweet, because from day to day I never know which ones I'll have to eat. So practice sweet words and avoid hasty, sharp replies, because that makes you seem abrasive. Remember in Anne of Green Gables, Anne said to the teacher, Catherine, you're just so full of prickles. So these hasty, sharp replies. Now, I'm going to read that scripture again to you, and then I'm going to share with you some things that I've been doing. Put on then, and this is from Colossians 3, verse 12. I'll try to remember to post that for you. Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord hath forgiven you, so you must also forgive. And above all, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed You were called in one body, and be thankful. And you know, that just sounds like a recipe, doesn't it? It says, add this to this, and then put on love, and then bind them together in perfect harmony. Doesn't that sound like a cake mix? It just sounds so delicious. And it's a wonderful way to live if you can remember that. And it mentions patience. You might want to look that up in your 1828 Noah Webster dictionary and to see what the meaning is, because they always used, in that book, he always used scripture as his basis for the definition. And you could also look it up in the Young's Analytical Concordance, which I like better than Strong's or anything else, because Young's Analytical Concordance will break down a word into when it's a verb and when it's an adjective and when it's a noun and when it's an adverb or whatever, and give you the citation, the place to find it. And so it gives many different meanings of a word. Now, the classes that I am taking that are going to occupy my time and my mind and keep me off of the poison of the media are, and by the way, there was a lady, I believe her name was Leslie, and she was in England, and she had a little blog, which I don't think is available anymore, but she had the Housewife News or Homemaker News, and it was the cutest thing. I just wish she'd find it, put it all back on, and she would say, well, this morning the weather looks good for this or for that, you know, and now it's time to do this, and just this wonderful report. It was called Homemaker News. It was just beautiful. I don't think I could do it, but so the current classes, so that I can avoid the war, are I joined an online exercise class. Really, it's not a class. It's just that I found a video that I really like, and I also printed off some, stick figure drawings of a exercise routine from an old book, and they're not strenuous, and maybe they won't make me stronger or younger or thinner, but doing them, that is what is important, and I can check that off of my list, and it gives me some kind of a social activity in a way. So I found one that I like, and I'll leave the link to that. Now, in watching these videos, I don't do every single exercise, and if they've done 10 of some kind of a stretch, I might do 5. See, I know when I've had enough. And so then I also joined a singing class, and that means it's just a video that's an instruction on singing, and I found that on YouTube, and I'll leave and they explain, different things about singing. And then, of course, I joined a Zoom painting class. Really looking forward to it. It's Susan Rios, and she's in my time zone. She's in California, and this week we're going to paint a pink house. I'm excited about that. I'm sure it won't be as good as hers, but this kind of subject matter puts peace into your heart, and it brings the loveliness that Philippians 4:8 talks about. Whatever's true, lovely, good, and just and noble, think on these things, and it makes you think on good things when you're painting good things. And of course, you're usually reflecting God's creation anyway. And then I haven't joined anymore, but that's enough to interfere with my normal housekeeping. I realized in some of the bigger projects that I have to do, such as a wall to ceiling to floor bookshelf in one room and a half-size bookshelf in another room, and then another entire room full of books, that I would need breaks in between all that. I couldn't just concentrate on that job till it was finished. I would need some kind of diversion, some kind of break. So the exercise class, the singing class, the painting class, and there was one more, I can't think of what it was. I think it was breathing. And that I would need I'd need a break from it, because it's they're very tedious, and that was one of the reasons I made this video, so that you could do something tedious while you watched. Now, I hope I can remember to post all this for you. And as far as appearance goes, one of the things that I identify as, is a lady, so I want to dress like a lady. So when people say, why are you wearing that hat, or why are you wearing that dress, I can just say, well, one of my interests is being a lady and I identify as a lady, or if I'm wearing a Victorian costume, I identify as a Victorian lady. So ladies, I hope that this has helped you. And remember that in all your isolation, you can use it. It's like having free time. And when all your friends forsake you and all your relatives forsake you, well, they're just giving you more free time. You don't have to write them a letter. You don't have to remember anything about them. You can put those thoughts aside for a while, and it frees up your time to get more done. And I hope that you'll use that time to make your homes lovely and your family happy, and the atmosphere in your home a place that everyone would rather be. That they'll just, my children used to say when we came home from having to go out, for essentials and a trip, that they just get out of the car and run into the house because they were so happy to be home. And I hope that you can get it that way for yourself. So until next time, God bless you, and I hope you get a lot done. Goodbye.